All right, if you're new into hunting, then these are the 5 essential pieces of gear that you need. And I'll give you a bonus sixth one, but I really don't think you truly need the sixth one. As a matter of fact, there are maybe even a few pieces of gear on this list you may be able to get away with some other skills. And yes, I use the word skills for a reason. Now, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Davin Sudvik with The Catch Today, and we try to talk about hunting, fishing, and the outdoors on this channel, and I want you to get as much value out of this video as you possibly can. So make sure you comment down below what kind of animals are you into hunting. That way I can make more specific videos in the future based on my audience's interests. All right, without any further ado, let's get right into the subject. So a lot of hunters really do overcomplicate hunting. In case you haven't watched my video, What is Hunting? Hunting 101, that video definitely describes how simple hunting truly is. A lot of gear that we think about when we think about hunting is truly outdoor gear. It really isn't truly hunting gear. So there are really only 5 main categories that you need to know, and we'll get right into number 1. All right, so this one might not seem like gear, but it actually is. It is your license. Now, this is a license wallet. All it does is it holds my tags and permits for the state of Nevada, because that's the area that I hunt in this little wallet. And really what it does is it gives me permission to go pursue the animals that I want to pursue. Now, I particularly hunt big game. I hunt rabbits, jackrabbits, which are non-game animals. I hunt ducks, doves, and even a little bit of chukar. So there are quite a few animals that I pursue within the different seasons that are appropriate. And so this gives me the permission to do that. And without permission, you can't go hunting. All right, the second thing is a piece of gear I think a lot of people really miss, and that is information or a map. So your mapping system, or your ability to find game animals that you're pursuing, whether you're looking for deer or any other large game animal, or you're looking for small game, a map's going to be super important because it's going to identify habitat and terrain that could potentially hold those animals. So you got to do research. It's the first step into hunting that you got to do. If you don't understand the animals that you're trying to hunt, you won't find them. And it really doesn't matter how good of a shot you are if you can't even find the animals. So a mapping system. So this is a paper map, obviously. Not that paper maps aren't useful, but now a lot of people are using their phones like onX or GoHunt. Those are both 2 great options. I'm sure there's more out there. Those are just the 2 that I'm aware of. And you can use these features to find different types of terrain. And some of them will even share with you different distribution ranges. And what a distribution range is it kind of indicates a boundary of where you will probably find certain animals, and areas where, you know what, like, it's not that you can't find those animals there, but there's just going to be much less concentration, and that might not be a great place for you to spend your time. The third most important thing when you're getting into hunting is your clothing. And that's mainly because your clothing is going to fit you personally. It's really difficult to borrow clothing as it is compared to borrowing, for example, a weapon or even a vehicle, right? Most people can give you a ride out into the field, but they're not going to give you the clothes off their back unless they're true friends who actually fit the size that you are. So with that being said, though, a lot of people, I feel like, overspend on hunting clothing. And it's not a bad thing. Clothing is super important. So if you're going to dump money into something, eventually you'll probably want to invest in really quality hunting clothing. However, if I was starting brand new, I would invest that in my feet. And the main reason why is because you can use your feet to get to places that you wouldn't normally be able to get to in a vehicle. So you got 2 options that you can kind of go in. You got to go on the waterproof option, like with these waders. And that's going to be really good for your wetlands and your marshlands, for example, if you're going to be doing a lot of waterfowl hunting. However, I have a pair of non-insulated waterproof leather boots, and these are great for hiking. And that's going to get me into the mountains and help me get in high elevations when I'm working really, really hard. That lack of insulation is going to allow my feet to cool off when I'm doing strenuous work. But also a pair of insulated boots can work well if you're going to be sitting in a stand, but just make sure that your boots are doing what you need them to do. Obviously, I don't know what kind of hunting you're going to be doing. These boots and shoes work for me. So anyway, boots are somewhere where I would put probably more money into in the beginning and make a bigger investment on my clothing. And I'd probably go a little bit cheaper on the rest of my camo. And I'll talk about that in a later video. All right, so the first three items are pretty much non-negotiable. You really do need those items before you go hunting because there's a lot of other gear that you can borrow, and we're getting into that gear right now. So the fourth thing that I would invest in if I was a brand new hunter is a set of binoculars. A quality set of optics is going to set you apart. And there, you might be that, I guess, hesitation to spend a little bit more money on optics because when you're at the store and you look through a pair of $150 binoculars or you look through a pair of $500 binoculars, you're not going to see that big of a difference. Where the difference comes in is when you're in harsh weather conditions. When you're in harsh conditions, the technology that is in the higher quality optics is going to make a difference. So it really does depend. Are you going to be glad you saved that $350 when you're trying to look at a really nice buck and you're trying to determine whether or not he's worth pursuing? Or maybe you don't even see the animal because there's a buck that's just out of view of your visual, range, but could have been able to be seen with a good pair of binoculars. Also, a good pair of binoculars should work well with your boots. And I say that for a reason. You should be able to walk to places that you can't see from the road with your boots. That's why you need boots, like really, really good quality shoes. And then once you get to a good vantage point where you can see things that you couldn't have seen from the road, you should be able to use your binoculars to rule out areas that you don't want to walk to, right? If you glass an area and you go, wow, there's no deer in that area, and you're deer hunting, obviously you don't want to walk there versus you might be able to glass a different hill or a different mountain, find deer and go, okay, that is an area I want to hunt. How do I make a plan to go get there? So your optics should help you save miles on your feet, but your boots should still be able to get you to go where you need to go. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, the next topic is a weapon system. So you don't actually need to own a weapon system to go hunting. And I'll tell you this for a reason. If you get involved in wildlife conservation and you meet some other hunters, you're probably going to get invited out by people who have plenty of gear, and they probably have more guns than what they need, or weapons in general that you can use. And you're probably going to be learning from a mentor, and that mentor will probably have a weapon that you can borrow. Nonetheless, eventually you're going to get to a level where you're going to want some weapons of your own, and I've got a couple examples right here. Now, you might be able to tell I like old guns. So this is my deer hunting rifle. I've probably shot more big game animals with this rifle than any other rifle I've ever used. And then I love, for bird hunting, you might choose a shotgun. But other people use archery equipment for big game, or they use, shotguns or even handguns for hunting. What I would just say to you is pick a weapon system that you enjoy using and is appropriate for the game that you're trying to pursue. It might be very tempting to fall onto trends that are happening in the hunting world where people are trying to shoot geese with bow and arrow. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be doing that, but that is definitely not a beginning or a beginner way to enter into hunting. You may want to choose something that's a little bit more traditional and appropriate for what you want to do. And I'll create a video later on describing the pros and cons of different types of weapon systems, because more expensive isn't necessarily better and newer isn't necessarily better either. All right, number 6, this is like the bonus tool of them all, and that is vehicles. So whether it's a boat or a truck in order to pull that boat, or just an ATV, whatever you might think a vehicle could do to help you, they are aids to getting you to areas where you may want to hunt. But don't be tempted to use the vehicle as your primary hunting source. And I say that for a reason. And that's because there's a big trend of people spending a lot of money on four-wheel drive vehicles, and they drive around roads looking for game, and they glass from the roads, and they only hunt areas where they see game that they can glass from the roads. This does two things. This encourages the animals to move into areas that you can't see from the road. And it also encourages people to drive around the roads hoping that they get lucky. And what that does is it scares the game away and it makes it harder for everybody to hunt. Now, if you like to go hiking, that makes it easier. I can't tell you on how many hikes I've been just randomly hiking, like looking for a really good area. I'll give you an example, maybe for elk. And along that way, I've spotted huge deer just because I was trying to hike to a really good elk location. And those deer weren't far away from the road, but you would not have ever been able to see them at the road. So hopefully you got something out of this video. I hope you understand that you don't have to overcomplicate gear. Now, it doesn't mean that these are the only things you're going to bring on a deer hunt or on any hunt for any matter. It just means that these are the essential items to get into hunting and that you're going to want to invest into in the beginning. These have a really high dollar for return item. Versus there's a lot of preferences that you can get into in the hunting world that aren't necessarily going to make you successful. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Comment down below and have a great day.